Just starting the stream now, Amy. I'll just let you know as soon as it's ready.
Thank you.
Yep, that looks good. Like we're good to go. Thank you.
Okay, Amy, if you could do the housekeeping, please.
Absolutely, Chair, yes. So, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the meeting of the Community Liaison Committee of the 22nd of January 2026. And may I remind everyone present that the meeting is being live streamed as well as recorded via the internet, and this recording archived for future viewing. If a participant wishes to speak this evening, can they please use the raise hand button, which is in the bottom centre of your screen, to indicate to either myself or the Chair, Councillor Rhiannon Birch. If you use that and are not subsequently called to speak, please could you come onto screen momentarily to alert the Chair that you wish to speak. When invited to address by the Chair, could you please make sure that your microphone and camera are both on in order that you can be seen and heard when you're actively participating. Please ensure that all debate is raised verbally and not via the chat function for the sake of the recording. Can I please welcome all committee and non-committee elected members, cabinet members and the officers who have joined us and service officers as guests this evening. If I may, Chair, just to take the opportunity, because we do have some new individuals with us who may not have joined our meeting before, just to highlight that the large activation button in the bottom centre of the screen is the only button that you should hopefully need to activate and come on to screen this evening. The camera and microphone buttons need to remain unmuted, so when you press your activation button, you will come onto screen and be seen and heard. If you wish to participate, the raise hand button is just at the bottom, and the Chair will bring you in at the appropriate point. On the right-hand side of your screen, you will see a list of names, which are the participants. This will let you know the speaking order for this evening as we progress through. Thank you very much, Chair. That concludes the housekeeping.
Excellent, thank you very much. Okay, so welcome everybody. Should we start with apologies for absence, please?
Absolutely, Chair. So apologies have been received from Councillor Campbell, Vale of Glamorgan elected member. Apologies from Town and Community Councils have been received from Councillor Wilson for Cowbridge with Llanblethian Town Council. Also apologies from Councillor Shaw for Llandow Community Council, but their council is represented this evening by Councillor Walters. Also, apologies received from Councillor Partridge, who's now resigned from the St Donat's Community Council, and therefore the council is represented this evening by Councillor Jane Thomas. Thank you, Chair. That concludes the apologies I've received.
Okay, thank you very much. Right, if we could look at the minutes of the meeting from the 16th of October, please. Can I accept those as a true record, or are there matters arising from those? You will all have had these in advance.
I'm happy to second those, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Hanks. So we're going to accept those as a true record. Thank you. Are there any declarations of interest? And if so, they would need to declare what the nature of those interests is, please. Do we have any declarations of interest? No? Okay, in that case, we're going to move on to item 4, which is the South Wales Police Service. And we're going to have a verbal update from Inspector Hugh Tyler, who I'd like to welcome to our meeting as a new one. I have already come across you because you came to Penarth Town Council last month and provided us with a lot of detail. It was very interesting. I'd also like us to send a letter of thanks to Inspector Gareth Childs, who has been our interface with the police service for some time now. I don't know if I would like everyone to support me in doing that, please. Excellent. All right, so that's unanimous. Thank you. So we will do that, please, Amy, and then I'm going to hand over to you, Inspector Tyler.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me here this evening. I know I've introduced myself to a lot of you, so this may be a repeat of information you already have, but I thought it'd be helpful to introduce who I am, where I come from, what my experience is, first of all, very quickly. So obviously inspector now for Barry, the Vale and Penarth. Previously, I was a staff officer, worked for 2 years with ACC Myrick and other chief officers in headquarters. And then prior to that, I was neighbourhood policing sergeant in Cateys, and I've also worked in the hub as both a supervisor and investigator for volume crime. A lot of that was kind of the high-risk domestic-related crime. As I've done in some town council meetings, I thought I'd go over, since this is the first meeting I'm attending, and it's also the first one of the year in January, I thought I'd go over some stats, an overall kind of view of how we're looking currently in Barry and the Vale compared to the year before. So if we look at January and December, we've actually had a 3% decrease in crime, reported crime, between January and December 2025 compared to the previous year. If we go into some specific stats there, we can look at further reductions in public order of an 8% decrease. Shopliftings decreased by 31.5%. And we've also seen reductions then in violence with injury, criminal damage, and residential burglary. There's been a decrease of 28.6%. So that's some of the good news in reductions. Unfortunately, other areas have increased. So if we look at violence without injury, we've had an increase of 19.7%. I've had a look through the data there. There's nothing really, no specific themes with that. But we'll continue to monitor that through this next year as we go forward. Looking at vehicle offences, we've had overall a 3.4% increase. However, when you break that down, theft from vehicle is reduced by 7.1%. Theft of vehicle is reduced by 5.2%. And our major increase is in that vehicle interference, which is an increase of 69.1%. So vehicle interference is whereby someone's interfered with a vehicle in order to steal from within or steal the vehicle. So to me, that's kind of an indication of any preventative work that's gone on in the past year is kind of really helping with the members of the public, ensuring people are locking their vehicles. And we're obviously picking up a lot more instances where reported crime via CCTV and via ring doorbells. So that's a positive for us. We've also had drug trafficking has increased by 375% across the Vale. In numbers, that's an increase from 36 to 171. And as I've explained in some previous meetings before, that's in regards to charging standards. So previously, anything picked up at the border by border force agencies were being counted as crimes at those locations. They're now coming down to the local area. So if something is stopped at the border, that has an address or a local address in our area, it's now recorded locally. So that kind of accounts for the increase in crimes there. We've also had an increase in robbery, which sounds quite drastic, from up to 150% increase from 24 to 60. Again, I've had a review of them, and a lot of them now are business robberies, which is a new offence that was introduced this year. So a business robbery is basically usually regarding shoplifting offences where any violence has been used immediately before or during the course of the event in order to steal is now classed as a robbery, which allows us to charge the higher standard and get the higher sentencing powers. If I go into some of the recent news stories, we've had the Winter of Action started in December, very similar to the summer intensification period, where we have a reporting structure into the Home Office. And now this is a focus on retail theft and prolific offenders, and allows my team to really focus on our high streets. Mainly for us this year is Halton Road in Barry and Glebe Street in Penarth. As part of this, we've been working with Tony Parker, the community warden, working with and engaging with retailers, and also looking to set up business watches to really have that positive engagement for us to help them and for them to help us. This has resulted in 2 criminal behaviour orders being obtained against prolific offenders. In the past, this has been really difficult for us to attain, but through good positive partnership work, this is a positive step now to prevent reoffending. And to date, those 2 persons have not reoffended in our area. We've also conducted a PYV test purchase operation in Penarth, where 2 out of the 4 premises passed. So for those other 2, they were given suitable advice. And I've asked the team to widen their scope now in the new year. We'll retest those premises. And should there any be concerns raised, we'll raise them with trading standards as well. You may see more plainclothes operations being conducted because you may recognise some of our officers, hopefully not. People we want to catch won't recognise our officers, but we'll have some more plainclothes operations just so that we can be in the areas at the right times, catch these people, because we find if we flood an area with officers, obviously everyone avoids us. So we'll have more plainclothes operations going forward. We've also, as part of the Winds of Action, we got a pub watch now set up in Penarth. They're due to have their third meeting. So far, we've had positive feedback, and we're also looking to do that across the Vale, in Barry and the Vale areas as well. In the Vale, I noted that in the previous meeting, Op Waxbury was mentioned. So rural crime now is coming to the forefront for Welsh Government, and I attended a rural crime meeting in December with the other three forces in the Welsh Government, where we discussed the Wildlife and Rural Crime Strategy 25 to 28. It was a really good opportunity, really. So I've now I've taken over the role of rural crime lead for the force. I've also got a tactical lead in Sergeant Louise 2 and a strategic lead in Superintendent Tim Morgan. So we're going to be looking at rural crime to kind of put some governance structures in place in preparation now for our reporting structures into Welsh Government. As part of that, I'm going to be reviewing the tactical and operational plan for Op Waxbury. We've got some funding to spend. We're going to look at possibly obtaining suitable ANPR cameras that we can use mobile in the area. And we've got some demos set up internally where we're going to be testing out some kit, make sure we buy the right kit, which is suitable for our rural areas. And then we've got a follow-up meeting in Feb. I understand Farm Watch has been set up. Unfortunately, the meeting was cancelled in December, so we've got a meeting now set up in February with local MP as well, who'll be in attendance, just to discuss what that looks like going forward. You may have noticed as well in the news, we've had an increase in theft from motor vehicles across Penarth and Barry. So this was towards the end of December, beginning of January, where vans were being targeted with tools, and they were cutting open the sides of the vans to access these tools. Unfortunately, we don't have any leads to date, but my teams are still conducting patrols in those areas and providing crime prevention advice. And we haven't seen anything anymore since the 4th of January. But I'll be keeping an eye on that. And I've also fed that into our CSP team to ensure it's also covered across Cardiff and the Vale, should we see any themes across Cardiff, and we can pick up any suspects from them. That's kind of it from me. I'm welcomed for any questions, obviously, and any feedback as well for the information provided or anything else you'd like to hear from us. Because I'm interested in making this kind of a corporate thing across the board.
Right, thank you very much for that. That was very detailed. Right, okay, has anybody got questions, please? Okay, so I'm going to take Councillor Anne Asbury, then Councillor Mark Wilson, and then Councillor Mark Phillips. Anne Asbury first, please.
Hi, thank you for that. I'm just wondering if you've had any more officers, and if you have, will you be asking them to walk around areas rather than drive around?
Yeah, of course. They've had a direction from me that part of the uplift was to increase our visibility. We have had extra officers. However, some of those extra officers have come from departments, high demand departments with high workloads. So I'm currently working through that, and with my background from hub and volume crime, I'm hoping to assist them through that. But yes, the direction is they should be out and about, they should be walking. The whole point of the Winter Action is for high visibility. That comes to end in January, but we're going to maintain that as well going forward.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Mark Wilson.
Yeah, thank you very much, Inspector. And can I also thank your PCSOs and PC Tunnelcliffe for their visit to Penarth yesterday? It was very informative, and it's good that you link in with them all because they all seem to know what you were talking about last time, and that's really appreciative. And also, we also got many of their contact details, which is really helpful. But I also like to compliment that you and the police force locally, because there seems to me a much more greater physical presence within Penarth of the local police around. And I think that gives lots of people more confidence as well, walking around and being aware. And I even seen that in some of the retail stores where it seems to be much more business as usual as it was 2 or 3 years ago. And that can only be good. And I think, you know, you're saying about these new powers of aggravated shoplifting, if you want to call it. I know you call it robbery, but nevertheless, that gives you a bit more power, I would have thought, and the possibility of I would have thought, custodian sentence. I mean, obviously, people need to be, you know, that these are serious crimes, and people will be targeted if they keep doing them. And I think that's right. I mean, obviously, I'm very keen as councillors to liaise with the police, and obviously we're in many ways we're very similar to PCSOs, and we act as conduits between us and the community. I'm happy to continue that, and I want to assure you that I don't know a councillor on this call that's not in favour of that, and I'm hoping that we will work well together. So thank you, and a good start. Thank you, Hugh. We're much appreciative.
No problem at all.
thank
I
you.
absolutely completely agree. You're the eyes and ears of the public as well as my PCSOs, and we need to maintain that contact. As you can imagine, the amount of information that comes through me, I've got staff that information can come through as well. So I appreciate that. Thank you. And I've got to say thank you as well to Tony Parker, the Community Safety Warden, because I think he's making a huge difference as well and working really well with us, engaging with us quite regularly.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Sally Hanks. Oh no, I apologise. Where are we? Councillor Malcolm Phillips and then Councillor Sally Hanks.
Yes, thank you, Inspector, for that rundown of the statistics. And I'd like to mirror what my colleague there, Councillor Mark Wilson, said, that we like to work together with yourselves, and the councillors here in Dinas Powys, equally as like Mark said, we are another pair of eyes for you. And last week we met with Sean Byrne, who appears now to be the new PCSO attached to Dinas Powys. So it was pleasing to meet him. And I'd like to mirror once again what my other councillor colleague, Councillor Asprey, said. The feedback that we got in the past from the residents is that we would like to see more in the way of foot patrols rather than driving around in vehicles. That seemed to be the tendency in the past. If you could possibly take that on board in the next couple of weeks or whatever. My second thing I'd like to ask you as well, I know that parking of vehicles is a subject that's fraught with many problems, and mainly it's the council that deal with. But I think if a vehicle is causing serious obstructions, that can be dealt with by yourself. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
So what we're having is we're having lots of problems in the village square in Dinas Powys, particularly with Cardiff Bus. Now they operate the bus services, and there's one or two individuals who live in the vicinity, and they constantly park in the bus stop. Now we have services late now up until 8 o'clock at night, and very often it forces the driver to have to leave the bus to go into either the pub and ask for the vehicles to be moved. Is there something that you could maybe pay attention to that going forward, maybe for a couple of weeks, and maybe deal with this problem for us, please?
Yeah, of course, I'll look into it. I'll task it out to the team now to have a look to see what's going on, and do some door knocking in the area as well, and just see if anyone else brings up the issue, and we'll see what we can do.
Okay, appreciate that. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Sally Hanks.
Thank you, Chair. Hugh, I live in the Lanchett Major area, and could I query the use of electric scooters? The youths in Lanchett seem to be running riot on these scooters at the moment. I'm not sure what can be done about them. They seem to be illegal, but it seems that the police can't do much about them. Is that correct?
So it's a difficult one. So we've got one element where we don't want to necessarily criminalise children, but we've got the other element where they could be dangerous on the road or pavement and causing injury to others. We can take action. Sometimes it's about recognising the people, having the information of who these people are, where they live, etc. We can also do some educational work as well with the schools and the local youth clubs. Leave it with me. I'll have a chat with the team. I'll see what plans they have in place at the moment, and if not, we'll see what we can do. I'm currently working with Safer Barry Group in regards to mentoring and things around e-bikes. If there's opportunity to come into the Vale with it, I'll have a look and see what opportunities we have there.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Summers.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Hugh. Welcome. I'd like to just re-emphasise what some of my colleagues said earlier on about the councils working with yourselves, you know, as a team. We have had a number of discussions over previous meetings to try and get a better routine for PCSOs to attend the rural council meetings, the community council meetings, to maintain those contacts, both to transfer information both ways and just to get to know each other. I know they're very busy, and we don't expect them to attend all our meetings, but it would be nice if we could have some sort of schedule so that they did come every few months or so on a predetermined basis. I don't know if that's something you take forward to have a look at. As I say, we've looked at it in the past, but it sort of has got pushed into the background, and perhaps something you could put on your diary to have a look at in coming weeks.
Yeah. So is it that they're not attending at all?
No, I think so. It's intermittent and it varies from council to council. Some manage to get there fairly regularly. Others get drawn off into other activities and don't get there. And I think the idea really was just to try and sort of establish a pattern so that at least the councils know that they're going to have a chance to meet with their local PCSO 2 or 3 times a year or whatever that can be done. You know, the more the better, but we appreciate the practicalities of that.
Yeah, no problem. So of course there are some practicality issues sometimes. The direction has gone out for me that all my PCSOs should be in contact with local councillors, whatever that looks like, whether that's through email, phone calls, or attending community council meetings. I'll have a chat with the team. We'll get kind of a timetable written up of what meetings we have where and who to contact should they not be able to attend at short notice. Sometimes they do get dragged away. Just a strange example is the bones that were recently found on the coast in the Vale. My team were just on scene guard for that for 2 days in the rain. And that's it then. They pulled away, have no option. But what I would like to know from my staff is that if they can't attend, they can get a message to you to say they can't and any reasons why, and provide any written updates should they be required. But
yes,
I'll
that would be great. Thank you. I mean, I know my own council, when our PCSO can't get there, you know, he always tries to give us a written report if he can.
Okay.
But it is nice to have that chance to just sort of every few months to have a chat with them and just sort of see what there is coming both ways. Just a face-to-face stuff, isn't it?
Definitely. I'm quite intelligence driven. So any information you can bring into me that I can take action on through my PCSOs is much appreciated. And if you don't manage to speak to them or get hold of them, please drop them an email because they have direction from me through their sergeants to get the information flowing through.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you okay, Chair?
No, it's all right. Are there any other questions then, please? No? Okay, well, it remains for me to say thank you very much for coming. That was very helpful. And we look forward to seeing you in future meetings. I would echo what Councillor Summers has said about having a police attend, possibly not necessarily in person, possibly certainly online on some kind of rota, because I know that has been brought up several times in the past. And I know that some community councils feel they're kind of rather left to their own devices on this. And, you know, we're only talking about 10 minutes once a month from, you know, whoever the PCSO is.
And if there's any particular community council you feel like is being neglected or no attended, please let me know. Obviously, just London, I think it's before, just London, I've got 23 wards, bigger area than I've ever covered in both Cateys, with a lot of local council meetings. So if you can let me know of any specifics, I can then chase that up with specific officers then.
Thank you. And I think if you put your contact details or gave your contact details to Amy so she can circulate them, then we'd be very grateful for that.
That was timely, Chair, because I was just going to mention that Councillor Tyler's email address is now on the agenda front sheet for this committee as standard. So if anybody wishes to contact him directly, that is available to them.
Right. Yeah, very timely. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Okay, let's move on to item 5, South Wales Fire and Rescue Service. And I think do we have Martin O'Keefe with us today, please? And I would point out that his email address is also on the front page. So if you want us to get in touch, we're happy to do so. Okay, I'll hand over to you, please.
Good evening, Chair. Thank you very much for the introduction. So I'm Martin O'Keefe from South Wales Fire and Rescue Service, and I'm the Operations Commander for Bridgend and Vale of Glamorgan. So I was previously asked to bring trends to this meeting. We haven't identified any specific trends to discuss over Q3. We have, however, identified a reduction in overall incident numbers within the Vale for the same period last year. Most pleasing, really, particularly based on some of the information I gave last time, is that we've actually identified a 34% decrease in deliberate fires over the same period last year within the Vale. So during Q3, our crews from Barry Fire Station, working with our arson reduction team and partners from South Wales Police and the Vale of Glamorgan Council, undertook Operation Sentinel. Part of that involved crews conducting joint patrols, offering advice and guidance in response to what we've seen as a fairly significant rise in antisocial behaviour, which is very closely linked to deliberate fire setting and other associated crime involving youths and young adults in the Holton Road area of Barry. So we have seen some, what we hope is very linked success in that area during Q3. Overall, in Q3, we've attended 227 incidents in the Vale of Glamorgan Unitary Authority area, which again is a reduction from the same period of last year, where we attended 368. And as a service, so far this year, we've attended 14,440 incidents across the service area this financial year. That's obviously included very recently within Q3. We had the major incident declared in Monmouthshire as a result of Storm Claudia, and because of the nature of the major incident, actually crews from the Vale were in attendance there and utilising some of our water rescue assets to deliver the safe conclusion of that incident. Again, during Q3, we've attended 16 accidental dwelling fires within the Vale. Whilst, as I said, we haven't identified any specific trends, a kind of growing concern, and that has been for some time, are those fires that we're seeing related to lithium-ion batteries. As we've sadly seen during recent incidents that we had in Dinas Powys, devices such as e-scooters, mobile phones, laptops, other electrical goods pose quite a significant risk of fire. So we've undertaken a number of campaigns linked to that and are continuing to do so, trying to highlight those dangers to members of the public. And we've incorporated that into our fire safety guidance and advice when we deliver in our home fire safety checks as well. So as a service, we've completed 15,380 home fire safety checks so far this financial year, and we continue to deliver those free home fire safety checks. We fit smoke alarms, carbon monoxide alarms, and offer advice to members of the public. So I would ask councillors that as you speak to your members, this is a free service that we offer, and we're really trying to push and publicise this, particularly to those more vulnerable members of our community, and particularly to our elder residents within the Vale. It's a free service, and we can come around and deliver that for free. So information on that can be found on our website, and we're also publishing that through some of our other working groups that we work with, such as the Vale 50+ Forum. So again, we've continued to focus on education and prevention activity across Q3. So far this financial year within the Vale, we've completed 71 youth education programmes. And included, in addition to that, we've delivered 6 Domino's road safety campaigns. So the aim of those campaigns is to reduce road deaths and improve safety across our roads throughout the service area. Also, during the Q3, our crews have undertaken quite a large amount of community engagement and outreach work, particularly over that festive period, where we were involved within the Vale in a number of activities, ranging from supporting the Noah's Ark Foundation, where our crews delivered or assisted in the delivery of the Santa's Grotto, raising money for the charity, but also kind of offering that education and support for the charity as well. Through to a Christmas dinner that we hosted at Barry Fire Station. So the aim of that was to get members of the community onto the station, undertake some fire safety messaging and guidance, but as well as that, what we know is that isolation is a big thing within some of our communities. So enabled these members of the community to get together, have a Christmas dinner that our crews provided for them, and essentially kind of feel part of something. So that was a really positive activity that we undertook. Obviously, as we now move into the new year and into the last quarter, we'll continue working through our activities with a view of completing our objectives. One of the areas for the service which will be broadcast and discussed with our partners and our public service boards and our community safety partnerships is a community risk management plan that's currently being worked on by the service. Further information around that will be disseminated shortly once the plan is in place. I'd welcome any questions. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Again, very helpful. Okay, let's start with Councillor Phillips, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Good evening, Martin, and thank you very much there for the statistics once again. And it was great to meet you in person at the Focus 50 Forum in Barry just before Christmas. I'm glad, really, in a way, that you actually confirmed something which has been a lot of speculation in our area in Dinas Powys regarding the fire, I believe, in the early hours of the 9th of January in Cyfili Close, where you confirmed that the cause was one of these lithium batteries on a scooter.
Yes, I'm unfortunately unable to discuss specific incidents, Councillor, on whether it's been confirmed, but I know it's been very well publicised at the moment that that's believed to be the cause. Again, without looking at the fire report, which I'm not permitted to do without absolutely good reason, I'm led to believe that it may have been as a result of an e-scooter, or that's certainly what the resident believed at the start of the incident. So again, we're really pushing that messaging that there's a lot of risk that comes with lithium on batteries, and they are found in all sorts of products now. The advice that we give to people, particularly around charging, is that to never leave these items charging when you're unattended, and certainly not overnight when you go to bed. These batteries are found in things like e-scooters, mobile phones, laptops, lots of other device types. The danger is that if there's a fault with the battery, it can start to overheat and then develop thermal runaway, where the battery continues to heat the other batteries around it, ultimately results in ignition. Very ferocious fires when they do ignite, and people don't get a lot of warning. So the advice is to never store them in an escape route, never leave them charging overnight, and never leave them unattended whilst charging is the key messaging that we can get out to people, as well as and without speculating on the incident that we had in Dinas Powys, but as well as always ensuring that you buy from a reputable dealer and that these are kind of CE and safety marked items.
Okay, right. Thank you for that, Martin. Yeah, I spoke to a couple of neighbours. Concern was, and my thanks and the thanks of those for the was tremendous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Sandra Perks, please. Councillor Perks.
I'm afraid you're on mute, Sandra. Is your microphone off, please?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we
Yeah.
can.
Sorry, user error. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the lithium batteries, and I just wondered, you said it doesn't give you much warning. I just wondered how much, sort of time, if people are in the house and one of these batteries start as ignited, how much time do people have to actually get out of their property? Does it depend on what the battery is, or how's the size of the battery?
Absolutely. There are a number of factors. So the size of the battery, what the device is. There are incidents that are visible online of scooters catching fire where once they go into thermal runaway, they start to give off what looks like steam. It's actually a combustible gas. And then they ignite very, very quickly, and rapid fire spread can occur from these. Like I said, as a service, we don't want to kind of scare people and stop people from buying products and enjoying these products and the technology that's out there, but we would ask that people are very cognizant of the risk of buying counterfeit goods, goods that aren't necessarily CE marked and meet the standards required in the European Union and in the UK. And as I said, certainly that these items are not left charging in escape routes or left unattended. So if they were to go into thermal runaway, again, any kind of disfigurement in the battery. So if someone was to see the battery bulging or swelling or being unusually hot, the advice would be to unplug that device, to move it outside somewhere safe. And ultimately, if you've got any concerns, to call 999 and request a fire service, and we can come out and give appropriate advice. There are sadly a number of these incident types that have been occurring across the UK over the past few years. And where we've seen injury or sadly worse, it's largely due to charging them at night, charging them in escape routes and things like that. So the key advice really is to ensure they're not left unattended whilst they're charging.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mark Wilson.
Yeah, thank you very much, Martin, for your presentation. Just a couple of points, really. Are you still getting fires due to unattended dryers? Because I know it has been an issue, and I'm just wondering perhaps if that is occurring still. And also, where would you advise these dryers? Because some people put them in their garages, some people put them in outdoor utility rooms, and some people in the house if they got one. That's my first question. And secondly, I just wonder if there's any approved box that people can put in mobile phones of devices whilst they're charging that could minimize that if there was an ignition, that it wouldn't go to the rest of the property. But I'd be interested in your thoughts about those points.
Thank you, Councillor. So I'm not aware of any dryer flyers in the during this quarter that I can think of. I can go away and check the data and get back to you on that. But absolutely, kitchen utensils, dryers, fridge freezers, we do still attend those kind of incidents. With dryers, again, the advice is to have to make sure that you clean them regularly. So the problem with the dryer is they collect lots of kind of residue of clothing and fabric and things like that. It can then block the filters. This is obviously very ignitable substance. When they overheat, that then ignites. So the advice would be not to leave your dryer unattended, not to leave your dryer operating when you're not in the house, because if you're in the house with working smoke alarms, a very small fire, the alarm will detect it. Largely, you get yourself out the property, fire service could come and deal with it as a small incident. If you're out and there's nobody there to kind of catch that early, then you could see a quite significant incident. From a public safety perspective, the advice is definitely not to go to bed and leave your dryer on overnight, and that applies to all utensils really that aren't designed to be left plugged in overnight. So turn it off at the plug when you go to bed. As far as devices to charge mobile phones and things, I'm not aware of anything. From my experience, particularly with mobile phones, what would tend to happen is they get hot and they start to swell up, and if you're If you're there when it's charging, you're not leaving it unattended, it's generally something that people would notice. I think that the risk often comes when they're left unattended. We do, the advice that we give to young people when we talk to them in schools and in their homes is about not charging them on your bed, but charge them on a hard solid surface, such as a kitchen table or a worktop, because if they do get hot, then they're not going to ignite anything. What we tend to see with young people is they'll put their phone under their pillow. The heat then can't dissipate from the phone as it's charging, and that kind of becomes the risk. But I'm not aware of any specific devices that you can put a device in to keep it safe whilst it's charging, I'm afraid.
Thank you very much, and probably an idea for some sort of aspiring dragon, but you never know. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any other question that anybody wants to ask, please? No? I mean, I heard of an incident quite recently. I mean, I don't know whether it would affect the fire service, and it was someone charging her phone while using it in the bath.
Wow.
Yes, and in fact, you know, her mother rushed in and said, "You do realise you could electrocute yourself?" And she was like, "No," she didn't realise that was a danger. And I thought that's quite amazing where people want to take their phones, quite honestly. Yeah. Okay, if there are no other questions, thank you very much for that. And we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you for your help.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Right, okay, could we move on to item 6 then, please, which is Councillor Phil Summers, who's going to give us an update from the Public Service Board. Now, we have already had the notes that he sent us through, which are copious, and I hope everyone's had an opportunity to read them, because, you know, we have not previously had this amount of information coming out of the Public Service Board, so that's very welcome, and thank you very much. So I'll ask you to give us a kind of brief intro, and then if people have got questions, that would be good.
Thank you very much, Chair. And as you say, I've hopefully provided possibly more than enough information for people, but I thought we'll start that way, and if people feel it's too much, they can let me know. I'll just very briefly run over some of the sort of major topics that were covered there. The details are in that report, and of course the full minutes will be out in due course. Family Compass Service, this was a new or relatively new approach, which is coming from the Vale and its partners to generate this single entry point for everything to do with child services. I think it's looking to be a very good initiative. It provides this single point entry, but it's also a sort of neutral, non-judgmental starting point for everything from just basic advice right through to significant interventions. So a good starting point there, and something we might want to keep an eye on as an example of a contact service which might be applicable to other sections of the council in the future, rather than trying to focus everything through the single entry point that we're trying to do at the moment. Claire Benyon, the Director of Public Health for Vale and Cardiff, gave us an overview of her annual report, which this year focuses on the issues surrounding diabetes and type 2 diabetes in particular. It's makes very interesting reading, and a copy was attached to my notes for those of you who are involved with that side of things. Similarly, Suzanne gave us the update on the good food movement. This is an excellent whole system approach to healthy eating and healthy weight. She summarized their current 2-year plan, its achievements, and the first 6 months of that. The report is attached to my notes for those of you who wish to go into more detail. The PSB's own 6-monthly report was summarised. That, of course, is on the Vale website. For those of you who follow that, will no doubt have already picked that up. And Lloyd Fisher also gave us an overview of the information that had just been published on the multiple deprivation index. It's sad to note that there were 3. There are the number of areas of deprivation which are in the top 10, or the lowest 10, if you like, the most deprived areas, has gone up within the Vale, and we now have 7 areas, all within Barry, I'm afraid, which are in the top 10 most deprived areas in Wales. That's gone up from 3 to 10. Those extra areas are now obviously being addressed by the council in the same way as the 3 were originally, and the details of that will come out in various reports in due course. I think what might perhaps be overlooked at times, and is perhaps important to some of the community councils and to our Vale councillors when they're looking at these things, is that apart from those 7 areas, there are actually also 3 areas amongst our rural communities which unfortunately came in the bottom 10 deprived areas in Wales, specifically in respect to services and access to services. We know that the Vale Council keeps a very careful eye on sort of the basic things like bus services and things, but I think it's important that we don't overlook the fact that deprivation, certainly in specific things like access to services, is not just concentrated in our urban areas. And then the 2 other areas that were covered, Helen Moses gave us the update on the your place, and that is where the focus is on addressing those deprived areas in Barry, and as I say, that will now be extended to include the 7, not just the 3. And then we were given an update from Rob Thomas on the various work that's going on in Barry Town Centre, particularly the work around Holton Road and the new community centre that's being generated there, and that there are 2 further projects that are being looked at in regard to the old Philco store in Thompson Street, and ongoing discussions with the Health Board and the Regional Partnerships Board to do with integrated services in the Western Gateway. So I think that sort of very briefly summarises the areas that we covered. And say, hopefully, if those of you who want to follow it up in more detail, I've attached some relevant documents to the papers that were sent out. I'm happy to try and answer any questions anybody's got.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Do people have questions, or are they overwhelmed with the amount of information that they got? Right. Okay. So what's interesting is I would like to think that everybody that's representing a council here is going to be disseminating this information quite widely out to their community councils.
Sorry for interrupting you. We've got Councillor Sally Hanks who wants to speak.
Right. Okay. I apologise. Sally, come in.
Oh, thank you. All I was going to say was great thanks to Councillor Summers for the interesting information that he's put forward. So thank you very much. It's much appreciated.
Thank you.
And I'd just like to continue and say that I hope that everybody that's attending this meeting is going to be disseminating this information as widely as possible. I wouldn't like to think that it's going to be confined simply to us. There's too much of it. It's to make people aware of what's going on across the wider Vale.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I think that's important. I mean, I think a lot of these issues affect the whole of the Vale. All right. Some of them are very specific to certain wards, but it's always important that we all have an appreciation of what's going on across our whole area. So hopefully it's useful. If anybody's got any specific things they want me to take forward to the board, I think it's too late for the next agenda, but please let me know and I'll be happy to do that.
Right, thank you very much for that. And I'm sure that you'd be happy to have your details put into the chat so that people can take that down. And if people don't do that, then obviously you can get in touch with Amy, who will be able to provide you with that information. Right, thank you very much for that.
I'm sorry, Chair, you've come off screen.
Can you see me now?
Yes, we can. Yes.
I don't know what happened there at all. Right, okay, so I apologise. So request for consideration, Cowbridge with Llanblethy and Town Council, and information on the local development plan. I don't know who we've got to take us through this.
That's Ian Robinson, Chair. He's online
okay.
for you.
Thank you very much, Ian.
Hello, Chair. Can I just check with both with Chair and Amy? I think the slides have been shared, but do you want me to share my screen now to go through them, or what's your preferred way?
I think that would be easier if you did that, please. Yes.
That's fine. Last time I tried to share my screen in EasyConf, it wasn't entirely straightforward, so I'll try. And if someone could say if they are able to see my screen, that would be great.
No problem, Ian. We can see that it's waiting for source now, so it's asking for you to select.
Do I select window or entire screen? Sorry, Amy, silly question.
I would go with a window,
Fine,
and then the PowerPoint that you have open should come up. Oh, it's sharing your EasyConf screen at the moment.
Yeah, if you could share the PowerPoint window, Ian, and we should be able to see just that then, rather than everything that's on your laptop.
Bear with me. Right, let me try again.
So I'm just going to accept that.
Alternatively, I can grab an HDMI.
So what one? Sorry, what do you want me to do from here?
If you've got the PowerPoint open, are you able just to select the PowerPoint that you want to share? Alternatively, we can grab a HDMI and share them, but you should be able to just share it online.
Yeah, I've got you. Sorry. Yeah.
There we go. There we go. And then if you just go to presentation mode, just in the bottom right, should be very bottom right of the screen. There's a little kind of present. Yeah, keep going down. On the right, there we go. What is the furthest one on the right? Presentation mode. That one there, I think.
Is that okay?
Just give it a second. Hasn't come up yet.
I can see it.
We can see it, but it just looks a little bit small from my end. Is it?
I think we should be okay in that view for now, Chair, if that's okay, because I think everybody does have the slides in front of them as well in the papers.
There we go. That's it.
There you go. It's come up now.
Thanks, Ian.
Perfect. Okay. Thanks. Sorry about that. I'll try and remember that for next time I do it. Okay. Okay, evening to everyone. I've been asked to come and just deliver some slides on the upcoming consultation on the replacement local development plan, what that involves, what the timeline looks like, and what the opportunities will be for engagement in the process. And I'll crack on. So this is just a short recap on where we are at the moment and kind of how we got to this point. So there are a number of matters that have been considered and approved by full council to this point in 2024 and 2025. principally kind of the amount of growth that the plan is projecting in the Vale across the plan period, which is 2021 to 2036. And that's in recognition of the Vale being part of a national growth area in Future Wales, which is national planning policy. The matters in the strategy also include the strategic growth area. So that is the spatial distribution of growth, so essentially where we're looking to direct that growth to. It involved identifying key sites in Northwest Barry, St Athan, Roos and Dinas Powys, and also additional allocations in Barry at Neptune Road and Hayes Road. And then this consultation specifically is about the deposit plan. So that is essentially a full draft of the proposed replacement plan. I've said here it builds upon those matters previously considered by council, and that includes an additional allocation in St Athan at Clive Road, rural affordable housing led sites. So those are sort of small affordable housing led sites adjacent to rural settlements where there's an identified need. Some rolled forward sites, so those are sites included in our existing local development plan. They were proposing to roll forward to the new plan where they haven't been delivered yet. The plan also indicates where employment and retail allocations would be, and also the full scope of detailed policies. And that's also, that's all the policies that the planners use on a day-to-day basis to assess and determine planning applications about design, ecology, what happens in our town centres and things like that. So I've just got a slide here about next steps. So as I just noted, the deposit plan and supporting documents were approved for public consultation in January, just a week or two ago. Full Council also approved the revised delivery agreement for submission to Welsh Government. So the delivery agreement is where we set out the timeline for the various stages of the plan, hopefully towards adoption. We had to get agreement for a revised delivery agreement because of some slippage, mainly to do with the changes to the sites in Barry that a number of people on the call may be familiar with. That has now been approved by Welsh Government. So the consultation on the deposit plan will run for a period of 6 weeks between the 28th of January, which starts next week, and the 11th of March, and it is to allow all interested parties to make representations on any matter within the plan, whether that be policies, allocations, the vision, the strategy, the aims of the document. Representations made to us as part of this consultation will be considered, and then once we've been able to consider those and take a view on whether the plan remains sound as it is or whether changes are required, we'll look to report back to full council via cabinet and place scrutiny, and we envisage that to be autumn later this year. And then if that is approved by council following the consultation report being reported back, then the plan would be submitted to Welsh Government for examination by an independent planning inspector. And I've identified there that would potentially be in the early part of next year. So that's where an inspector that forms part of PEDU would be appointed to consider the plan and all aspects of it, particularly including the allocations, to decide, is this a sound plan? Does it do what it should do? Does it reflect the role and function of the area? And would they recommend adoption? So I just want to move on now to kind of the nuts and bolts of the consultation. So as I just mentioned, it runs between late January and the 11th of March this year. So there will be a website update and consultation portal, so people can be directed to the full scope of materials and consultation documents. We'll be sending out direct notifications either by email or letter based on previously identified preference to anybody that's registered an interest with us for updates on the RLDP. Hard copies of the plan and the associated consultation documents will be publicly available at the Civic Office and all council-run libraries. We envisage that most people will probably access the documents online, but obviously it's still important to make sure that we're finding hard copies for those that are not able to do so. Right, and then we're going to be looking to display posters in the deposit locations and in the in-person event locations. So I'll move on shortly to the in-person events and where they are. But yes, we'll be displaying posters in those locations and other locations in the vicinity. I put here relevant to the in-person event or proposed allocations. So we'll, where required, liaise with town and community councils and trying to determine what would be an appropriate location for advertising this process by poster, things like village shops, community notice boards, etc. So posters and update letters, I think have already been, but if not, will be very shortly sent to town and community councils, and we'd be happy for you to display and share those as widely as you're able and happy to do so. Through the course of the consultation, there'll be regular social media updates via things like Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn. We'll be doing that at the start, in the lead up to the in-person events in each area, midway through the consultation window, and then towards the end of the consultation window as well. We'll be supplying a press release to media outlets for their use. Obviously, it's up to those outlets then how they use those, but we'll be encouraging sharing and use of that press release. Site notices are to be displayed at all of the proposed allocation sites. We propose to do that at the point that the consultation starts. I think if we put them up earlier, our concern would be that if people started to attempt to share representations outside of the consultation window, that could lead to confusion and perhaps reps not being sort of properly made. So we want to make sure that we're not sort of jumping the gun with putting those notices up. There'll be an easy read version of the documents available at the deposit locations and online, and we'll be sending out information to schools for them to share via their school's bulletin. So here are the public engagement events. So we're holding drop-in sessions in Penarth, Barry, Roos, Dinas Powys, Cowbridge, St Athan and Llanthrop Major between the 30th of Jan and the 13th of February. So obviously some of those locations are in settlements where there are allocations proposed. There are other drop-in events in locations where no strategic allocation is proposed, for example, Penarth and Cowbridge and Llanthrop, but they are, of course, the more major centres of population with the capacity to hold these events and give, we're trying to give as much opportunity as we can to people to attend one of these events. At the events, we'll be available to give out leaflets that contain a QR code that links directly to the online resources, but there will also be hard copies of response forms that can be taken away and filled in to return to us sharing comments on the plan. And that was it initially. That's just a run through of what we're doing. Oh, I should just add that we will also be attending a tenant engagement session and the 50+ forum as well in the coming weeks. I'll just stop sharing my screen. Can I just check members can still hear me? Lovely.
Yeah, we can still hear you.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So I'm happy to answer any questions about this process, and if anybody has any thoughts on engagement methods that I haven't covered so far, I'm absolutely happy to consider those, and we'll look to accommodate anything additional to this that we can that I haven't covered. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I would like to reiterate to people that we're talking about the process here. It's not really appropriate to be making submissions about the actual plan. Those are better coming from your community councils or community or town councils, please. So with that in mind, Councillor Phillips, then Councillor Toker, then Councillor Asbury. Councillor Phillips first, please.
Yes, good evening, Ian. Just one point from me with regards to the presentation process and also the public consultation. I see once again, for example, the Dinas Powys one is on Friday, February the 6th. A lot of concern in the past regarding the times that these presentations are available. And again, it's from 15:30 in the afternoon until 18:30. A lot of people are saying that those times is not giving many people a chance to get there. Couldn't it be run throughout the day?
Thanks, Councillor Phillips. I mean, given the number of events we're running, and unfortunately we don't have the resources and capacity to run them throughout the day. I mean, I would encourage anybody that is unable to attend a particular event in one area, they're welcome to attend another event. You're certainly not limited to only talk about Dinas Powys issues at the Dinas Powys event and likewise for the other events. It's, I mean, there's obviously a multitude of means to contact the team and engage with the team. And if anybody wants to separately contact me or the team with specific queries, if they're unable to attend the event, we're happy to do so. It's not, we're not closed to contact outside of those meetings. So there are a number of sessions, and resource-wise, we unfortunately we can't devote the whole team to whole days at all these events, but we make ourselves as available as possible, and if people, as I said, if people can't make it, let us know, get in touch, and we'll try and arrange a conversation at a separate point.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you for that.
Okay, Councillor Toker, please.
Similar concern to previous councillor is the timings of the things. They only go on to 6:30 in the evening. That's very difficult for somebody like who lives in the rural Vale, but maybe works in Cardiff, getting home and getting there when there are, especially with St Athan, where there are severe issues with some of the potential sites. Because we've had a lot of kickback over the Clive Road site. And I want to make sure that everybody that's got issues can get to at least one meeting. I myself struggle being anywhere by 6:30. So I'm just wondering whether there's any scope to make it slightly later in the evening, that you finish at 7:30 or something for some of the events.
Fine. I'll listen. I'll take that back to the team and have a chat with them. I think we're trying to strike the right balance. I think there's been concerns in the past when we've run events too late that people have said that it's not, it's too late. And obviously similarly, if you run it too early, so I think we've tried to pitch it in the middle to try and cover as best we can. But if you leave it with me, I'll have a chat with the team tomorrow.
I'm very aware, especially with the St Athan, when it's going to be, I think it's going to be quite, because of obviously Clive Road. I think that's the biggest headache with this one this time round.
Okay, yeah, then that's fine. That's fine. I hear what you're saying, and leave that with me, and we'll have a chat about that.
Yeah, Community Council will hold a separate public meeting, so we'll be feeding back ourselves from it anyway.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Lovely.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Asbury, please.
Hi, Ian. Two things really. First of all, I know the consultation is coming very soon now, but if anybody puts in objections before the date of the consultation, is that kept or is it binned? That's the first one. And the second one is, if people do come to the meetings and engage on the consultation, do you have any forms that people can fill in and they know how to object and who to object to? Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Can I just check again if members can hear me? Sorry, I think I must have patchy signal because my screen is freezing a lot and my face hasn't. Fine. I will
tell you if we can't hear you, Ian.
All right, lovely. My face hasn't popped up on the main window on my screen, so I want to make sure.
No, we can see you.
Yes, there will be plenty of hard copies there for people to fill in, and when I was at a couple of the events when we were doing the previous plan, we are happy to support people in filling out forms there if they want, so people can take away forms, or if you want people to stay there, we will have it sufficiently resourced that we can devote time to talking people through them if that's required as well. If comments are made before, I mean, I wouldn't use the word binned, but I think for representations to be properly made, they should be made within the window of the consultation. Again, I can seek definitive advice on that from Victoria tomorrow, because she's more familiar than I am with the fine wording of the manual and the regs, and I don't want to give inaccurate advice on that. But I'll come back to on that if you like. Well, actually, I can come back to Amy, and Amy can share with everyone what the implication of that is. I would encourage them to be made between the 28th and the 11th. But okay. I'm happy to come back to all members to clarify that, but hopefully we can direct them to the appropriate window.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Haynes.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Ian. I'll be brief as I can. Regarding the general process of this, obviously placemaking is given to towns within the Vale, regardless of whether they have substantial developments, and communities that have substantial developments planned don't get the placemaking. And I understand it's a funding model set by the Welsh Government. That being said, I was thinking the way around that, well, perhaps would you be willing to consider attending St Athan Community Council meeting, or meeting with the Community Council and myself and the other Vale councillor in St Athan, so we can directly give some of our concerns and thoughts to you?
Yes, absolutely. Of course. Yeah, I'd be more than happy to do that.
Thank you. We'll make arrangements then.
Yeah, fine. If you want to, if you want to contact me directly and send me your dates, and we can work out what works best.
Thank you.
Lovely.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Cuddy.
Councillor Cuddy, are you able to press your activation button, please?
Yes, have I done so?
Yes, that's fine.
Can you hear me? Good.
Yes,
Yeah,
we aren't able to see you, Councillor Cuddy.
Ah, well.
Is the top of your laptop pointing up, maybe?
No, I'm afraid that's all I can do.
No, that's fine. We can see you now.
That's fine now, yeah.
You can see me now, can you? Okay. Yeah, well, a lot of concern obviously were about allocations and related land uses. But the plan also has to have many other policies which perhaps won't be foregrounded in your pop-up sessions, really, and the concentration will always be on that. But the plan has to essentially influence many other things in the area. And I just wondered, I looked at your integrated sustainability appraisal, which it's not in a complete form yet, is it? I just wondered if you comment what they were doing with, I presume it's the same consultants, that's AECOM?
Yes, I think that's going to be one of the background documents that sits. I mean, there is going to be a lot of background documents that sit alongside the draft plan, but the ISA will be one of them. And then, yeah, in terms of just what you said about the allocations, yes, I mean the vast majority of comments we get in these sorts of processes is normally about the allocations. But as you note, there are lots of other really key and important policy in the plan. I touched very briefly on it earlier, things like our town and village and sort of community commercial centres and how we deal with trying to reinstill vibrancy and footfall and vitality to those centres. So when I'll look into it with the team when it comes to the pop-ups, whether there is anything we can pull out in terms of maybe key other policies. So rather than people thinking it's just a meeting about allocations, in terms of the material.
No, well, I mean, the headings are quite obvious. Some of them are odd, like biodiversity and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Attitude to zero carbon, all that sort of stuff as well.
Yeah, obviously in our opinion, there's a lot of really important stuff in there.
And you're called the sustainability officer, aren't you?
Yeah, part of my role. So yeah, we obviously would like feedback on those things. And you're right, they don't necessarily jump out of the plan when people have got concerns about allocation. So I'll talk to the team about how we represent that at the in-person sessions.
And are the consultants going to do another study? It seemed to be incomplete in the sense it was done a long time ago as well.
What do you mean by incomplete? Sorry.
Well, obviously they didn't know the allocations or the shape of things. How could they have? How could they? They obviously there will be an impact, won't there? And they should, I presume, should comment on it.
Yeah, I mean there are impacts. I think the ISA does provide that assessment. But yeah,
it has sometimes. We would like to sort of policies. Or comments. I just wondered if they could be finished off a bit, or in the monitoring, perhaps, or what?
Sorry, I'm not sure I entirely understand the question. Sorry.
Okay, can I ask that you email Ian directly with your with your concerns, because if that would be, you know, you would be able to lay it out in more detail there, wouldn't you?
Yeah, it's a bit. It's a final document.
Okay,
Anyway.
thank you. I'm going to move on to Councillor Christine Cave, please. Christine? Have you taken yourself off the list?
No,
No.
I'm here.
Oh, no.
I'm here. Yeah, sorry, Chair.
Right.
I'm coming in on my phone, so it's not as clear as I probably want it to be. Just a quick point, just picking up on what you said before you brought everybody in the meeting to discuss the points that Ian's raised. You said this is about the process rather than the plan itself, and that the plan itself should be discussed and points should really come forward from the community councils and town councils. And I think I'm slightly confused by that, because obviously what we really want is everybody's views, not maybe here at this point in time, because this is about the process, but by and large, we want everybody's views, don't we, about
Oh yes,
the
yes. I
actual,
wasn't
yes.
trying to
Yeah, I just
you know,
wanted to
prohibit
clarify
anyone
that.
else from coming forward. What I meant was we as councillors are not going to discuss the whole thing now. And if we as councillors have got avenues for that, but no, obviously people are quite happy for people to bring forward their own responses to it, whether they want to push those through their community and town councils or whether they want to do it as individuals. That's fine. No, I wasn't trying to make us the arbiters of everything. That would be wrong, wouldn't it?
Yes, thank you for that.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Summers, please.
Yeah, thank you, Ian, for that overview of how the process is going to go. Just really picking up on some of the earlier comments, that obviously a lot of the discussion is likely to be around allocation and the key sites. But I did notice one particular line in your slides where you were talking about the fact that the rural affordable housing led sites, they're going to tend to be small and they're going to be spread across most of the rural communities, I suspect. So it would be nice if during the presentation that there was some sort of fairly clear guidance as to how they're going to be viewed and what the expectations are.
Thanks. Yeah, there are 4 rural affordable housing led allocations in the consultation document, 1 in Ferngoch, 1 in Aberthin, 1 in Colvinston, and 1 in Wick. So we would anticipate those probably coming forward as fully affordable housing, but there's likely to be a requirement of a minimum of 50%. One of the things that the policy is proposing to do is that where it is not 100% affordable, so where it's partially market housing, that the market housing also be a requirement for the market housing to also be demonstrated to be reflective of need in the area and need in the settlement. So we've had, I've been in a number of planning committees in the past few years where members of the council and members of the public speaking at meetings have kind of displayed concern about the lack of opportunity for people that have lived in a rural settlement for a long time to stay in the settlement in a more appropriate form and size of housing. And obviously, if they're not qualifying to move into affordable housing, then they don't qualify for what's typically been delivered in these kind of sites. Now, that's not a policy approach that we've done before, and it's not a policy. When I say a policy approach, I'm talking about requiring market elements to be based on evidence of need. That's not something that I think has been done before. It's something that I think I said this in the Place Scrutiny Committee meeting. It's something that I think another authority, Monmouth, I believe, are proposing to do something similar, and they're slightly ahead of us in the process, so they'll be going to plan examination before we do. So if an inspector raises concern to, I think it's Monmouth, with that approach, and if they feel that's not kind of founded in insufficient kind of need in terms of planning policy, then we'll have a heads up to that. But I think that's something we're really keen to do, because we're just trying to find ways we can to meet the needs of these settlements, that not just affordable housing need, but also the needs of people that are able, don't qualify for affordable housing, but still need something different, something that's not available in the settlement currently, and something that we would like to be able to control and add to the range and type of housing in these places. So yeah, they're relatively small allocations in the context of the others. It remains to be seen through the consultation how those are received. I mean, it's I've had to say, when we've had allocations adjacent to rural settlements through the course of the existing local development plan, they have been met with some opposition. All allocations are understandably I have concern. I mean, I don't mean they're bad. I mean, more than of interest. People are rightly concerned to make sure that they're right for the settlement and they give the settlement what it needs. So we would hope, through the adoption of the plan, to deliver for these places what the settlements need. But I would anticipate getting a number of comments in from these places through the course of the consultation. But I really hope that those comments come in from everybody and people that recognise the opportunities that these allocations can make, not just thinking of kind of maybe the infrastructure issues and it's the enlarging the settlement, natural concerns about what that means, and kind of the maybe natural human reaction to change sometimes. I would encourage people to think about actually what these allocations could mean for the entire village. And the opportunities they could present. I should probably stop.
I think you've obviously picked up very clearly there on the concern that there is in the rural settlements. But I think very often there is a view, and I don't want to get into the sort of assessment of the thing here, as the chair indicated earlier. We're talking about how it's done, not what's actually said. But I think it is a very serious concern for rural settlements, where very often the views of the residents don't necessarily coincide with the planning opinion, both ways. They're very often the settlements want development, and it doesn't quite line up with the planning policies. So I think
that's right. I think, and to be honest, I think everybody probably has a slightly different idea about what they want for their settlement and for their place, and we hear the views of some, and we don't always hear the views of everybody. But yeah,
we need to at this stage we need to make it quite clear what the policies you're looking to take forward are, because this is an area which is policy driven rather than specific allocation or key site driven or anything else, because they're going to be micro developments scattered across, if they're at all, across the whole of the rural area. So I think in your presentations you need to be as clear as you can, and the Monmouth example is useful, as to what the policies are going to be going forward in the revised plan. May or may not be what's been there in the past. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Cuddy, have you been able to formulate your question, or would you prefer to take this up via email with Ian, please?
No, I hadn't realised I had to formulate it now, but just seems obvious to me that a document written 2 or 3 years ago won't be able to accommodate, needs eventually to accommodate what's actually proposed. I'll have to look at the document again. I only quickly looked at it. I'll have to look at it again to see if that, what I've just sort of said is borne out by the document. And so I'll also email.
You'll email Ian. Okay, thank you very much. Right, does anybody else have a question for Ian? No? In that case, it remains to me to thank you for your information and to hope that as many people as possible take part in the consultation, because, you know, if they don't tell us, then we can't know, can we?
Yeah.
So thank you very much for that.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks to all of everyone in attendance for listening. Thanks.
Right, thank you very much. Okay, I have not been made aware of any other business, Amy.
That's correct, Chair. There isn't anything further for yourself this evening.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. And we look forward to seeing you again in a couple of months. Good night.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Chair.